retaliation. So, we've all been involved with retaliation investigations, and we've all seen what they actually consist of. 24 cases since the 1st of January 2016, so that's like 80 years. On average, I think that's 8.5 months, which is twice as long as they should take. And of all of the ones that we've investigated, there's only 2 where there's proposed but not yet implemented disciplinary action. All the other 22 cases, we either didn't find retaliation or ALS didn't take any disciplinary steps. Now, some of you will be aware of this, but what we did was we thought this whole thing of retaliation has got the potential to cause us massive problems if we get it wrong. So we had a look at what we were doing and why we were doing it the way that we were doing it. And what we were doing was opening an investigation, because that's what that says. And it was taking a long time, because some of them are horribly complicated, and some of them are just so trivial that they're not worth investing any time in. So we were of the opinion that we weren't using the STAI properly, or more flexibly, or more imaginatively, and what we trialed was the process as we get the stuff comes in from the ethics office. We then write to the subject, and I'm paraphrasing here, saying, look, the ethics office have said that you've prima facie you have retaliated, therefore you're guilty of retaliation against staff member A. Here's all the material, here's the STAI, write back to us in 10 days and tell us why you're not guilty of retaliation. And we've managed to cut the time down from 247 days down to about 45, because they write back straight away, and they invariably it's, I didn't know anything about Protected Act, and this is nonsense. All I did was send out an email telling people to behave themselves. Then we sort of make the judgment, is it worth getting 64 gigabytes of emails to prove that they hadn't only sent the email out, or do we take their word, their sworn word for it, and then say, well, ethics office, there is never ever going to be any sanction imposed for this retaliatory act, or whatever it's called, and we're not going to do anything else. And the ethics office, effectively we're doing the ethics office's job, and they've swallowed it up and they've accepted it. And like I say, we've done 2 now. I think we've got another 2 in the pipeline, and it's working quite nicely. That brings the figures down. That gets the Americans off the UN's back. It means that they don't reduce their contribution. And it's all managed within OIOS, so it saves the investigators the trouble. And I have to say, everybody's happy. What happens when we get one where it's come back and there clearly is retaliation and there clearly is sanctioned behaviour? We will treat that as an abuse of authority investigation and leave the retaliation aspect to the ethics office. You're looking quizzical.
Particularly about that last point. Leave the we're not going to investigate retaliation then?
As a misconduct, as an abuse of authority. So because what's happening is the ALS, because of the reversal of the burden of proof, you'll understand this as with your background, they don't like the fact that it puts it onto the defendant, if you like, and they think it's an abuse of so they're not taking any action.
But that's what SGB asks, the reverse of the burden of the proof, whether ALS likes it or not. we should.
Yeah, but if in determining misconduct,
No, I'm
it's
talking
like-
about retaliation per se to be established.
yeah,
The burden is reversed.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what we're saying. We're saying,
Yeah.
we're saying you're guilty of retaliation.
Yeah.
Prove that you're not. And the ones that we've had have been able quite easily to prove that they're not.
I'm a bit confused about the ALS position here.
When, the way that we've been doing it traditionally, we've been doing the big investigation report, and it goes to the ethics office and then it goes to ALS. And ALS are looking at the actual conduct
Right.
and saying, well, this is not sanctionable. Plus, we don't like it might be for that, but in determining misconduct, they don't like the reversal of the burden of proof because it ceases to be you're innocent until
You know, I'm a
shown
great
guilty.
admirer of ALS.
That's enough.
But what
But-
I'm saying, the STSGB per se say when established it is misconduct. Doesn't it? Unless they change it. It's unambiguous unless my memory fails me.
Yeah, well-
It is saying there,
Yeah,
when
but-
established it constitutes misconduct, serious
I'm
misconduct.
only telling you what they've told me, which is that the burden, reversal
Yeah,
of
it's
burden of
creating
proof
law.
in terms of dealing with a offending staff member is causing a problem because they're guilty.
They're very pro stuff. I understand.
So that's retaliation.
But that, and when you say we, this is a collaborative thing with the ethics office and all the parties, because we haven't seen any of these cases in New York.
No,
So
we're
it's been
doing them-
tested elsewhere, but.
Yeah, we're doing it in OSSS, which
Yeah.
is, it relieves the burden quite massively for you. And like I say,
But not if it's ultimately investigated.
if it's ultimately investigated,
Then it'll
it's
be
a-
pushed to
we're-
someone.
Yeah, we're collapsing it's a numbers game because we'd probably collapse it from 8 a year down to less than 1 a year on the way things are going at the moment.
But can I check
Yeah.
something with you? With the ethics office, we get the retaliation cases only if they find prima facie, right? On the face whatever submitted to them. But then we become kind of the mailbox, we're doing their job. We're reaching out to
Exactly.
this subject
Exactly.
of all the persons who claim to be retaliating case, and then that person provides something. And then we're pushing it on to the ethics office, which completely contradicts what the ethics office found in the first place. So how do they reconcile? Because
They could do all this themselves, but they won't because they don't want to be seen to be talking or taking the side or accepting what invariably what the manager says. So we are doing their job. We are doing their job. But the alternative is going back to those 240-day long investigations, the 64 gigabytes of emails, the dozens of interviews, and
no,
the
this-
zero outcome.
So, but it's not maybe in this context, but the complainant being entitled to a report, or this doesn't apply to the retaliation cases, or if we're shifting in that direction?
We've just bunged it all back on the ethics office.
So if the complainant is not happy with our decision to accept the word of the perpetrator, then they will be challenging, or is it challenging?
The ethics office, when we went through the sort of the trial, the ethics office were sort of bouncing back, and they sort of gave us pointers that we now know that we have to cover. But it works a treat. SEA,